So I answered it and was like, what's wrong? What's up?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dana's just announced that you're the champion. I was like, what? No way. Anyway, we had a little chat, put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally, as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background, like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident. Because I was like, hello? Like, he was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Like, whatever. I'm like done with that now, and I'm ready to move on, to be honest. Yeah, I know what that's... I don't know, like, I've been talking about John Jones.
I know.
I was happy to talk about John Jones to get the fight. And now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on. Stuff. And I think, I'm not getting at John here, I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. If you're... So this is my view on PEDs, personally. If you're a sprinter, for example, you do 100 meters, and you take PEDs, and you win a race, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs from that. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever, that's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again.
After years of anticipation, public callouts, and mounting hype, the Tom Aspinall versus John Jones saga has reached its conclusion. Without a single punch thrown, John Jones slipped into retirement quietly, with no farewell tour or dramatic send-off. Just a matter-of-fact announcement from Dana White in the middle of a press conference. Now, as the MMA world processes this anticlimactic ending, Tom Aspinall sits down with Ariel Helwani in Las Vegas. But this isn't just another interview. Tom is now the man with the belt, and for the first time since the news broke, he's opening up with a calm, focused demeanor, signaling he's ready to move forward. The waiting game is over. There's no more chasing a fight that was never destined to happen. Tom is officially the UFC heavyweight champion, regardless of how it came to be, and perhaps the most telling part of this entire story is the statement John Jones never made, because ultimately Tom didn't retire Jones with a punch, but with his very presence.
Scenario other than fighting him. How this all played out in your favor, I would say best case scenario other than fighting him.
I mean, I guess, but you know what? I think that, see, for me, the second that I won the interim title, I think that a lot of people looked at me a little bit different to a regular interim champion, in my opinion.
You should have been the undisputed champion that night.
Yeah, that's what I think, just because of the politics around it and the way that, you know, things happened. But for me, I was always a champion anyway, interim or not, in my opinion, in my own view. But I would have liked to have taken it from the other champion, as in a fight. That would have been nice. But I guess it's worked out pretty good anyway, I guess.
The discussion naturally begins with John Jones. Ariel Helwani brings up that moment last Saturday night when Dana White, almost as an afterthought, announced John's retirement during a press conference. Tom shares that he was already winding down for the night. He'd just returned home from dinner with his wife and friends, ready to relax when his phone started lighting up. His media rep called him after midnight, not with fanfare, but with a simple message. Congratulations, you're the champ. We'll catch up next week. That's how it happened. No grand ceremony, no passing of the torch, just a phone call and a new reality. Tom Aspinall is the guy now.
Where is Tom Aspinall when this announcement is made?
I was in bed getting ready to sleep.
So you're awake?
I was usually. So it was around about midnight-ish. Yep. Usually I wouldn't be awake. I'm usually asleep before then. That particular day, I had been for a meal with my wife and some friends. We got in a little bit late, not too late, like 10, 11. So I was just like took a shower, was ready to sleep, got in bed. My phone started ringing. I'm like, it was actually my media guy, Charlie, who called me. And I'm like, why is Charlie calling me at like midnight? What the hell's going on? So I answered it and I was like, what's up? Like I didn't even like say hello. By the way, if you front, maybe this will cross up. Like, you don't really greet someone in the UK by saying what's up. What's up is more like a question of, is everything okay?
Oh, really?
Like in the US, people say, oh, what's up?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
We don't really use that in the UK.
Okay.
What's up means like what's wrong. So I answered it and was like, what's wrong? What's up?
Yeah.
And he's like, Dana's just announced that you're the champion. I was like, what? No way. Anyway, we had a little chat, put the phone down. Hunter Campbell called me, literally, as I put the phone down. And as he called, all I could hear was the press conference like going on in the background, like with Dana. And originally I thought that he'd like pocket dialed me by accident, because I was like, hello? Like, he was loud. Like he was in the same room as Dana. And he just said, look, just let you know, we've announced that you're the champion. Congratulations. We'll talk more next week. Bye.
That was it.
Tom confesses that the whole experience brought him more of a sense of relief than any real excitement. While fans and pundits have often painted him as chasing John for the money or the spotlight, Tom is clear. That was never his motivation. He's adamant that it was never about the payday or the name value. For Tom, it was always about the title, about being recognized as the best heavyweight in the world. That's what drove him to train relentlessly. What frustrated him most wasn't John's exit, but the lost time. Months spent unable to fight anyone. Tom isn't here to be a personality or a content creator. He's a fighter, and all he wanted was the chance to compete again.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
What is your reaction?
I mean, I was relieved. I was relieved that this is all over, because I know you've backed me up on this a lot, and I appreciate it. I was never, ever, ever just chasing John Jones. And there was a lot of talk from people online and stuff, like there was a lot of comparisons to Chandler chasing McGregor. Chandler was chasing McGregor because he wanted a big fight and he wanted some money. Basically, that's what's happening there. I didn't care about a big fight or money. I cared about the heavyweight title. That's all I've ever been bothered about, is recognition for being the best heavyweight walking around on planet Earth. That's all I ever wanted to do. So originally, I'm just like relieved that I can actually fight again. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Look, I do some stuff in the media. I've got a YouTube channel. I do stuff across social media. I've got great sponsors and everything. Like, I do stuff in the media, obviously. But what my job is fighting people.
Ariel presses further, questioning the way the announcement unfolded and how it lacked the gravitas such a moment deserved. It wasn't like the title handover seen with legends like Jose Aldo or Ronda Rousey. Instead, it was a quiet, almost casual moment in the middle of a press event. Tom understands it could have been handled with more respect, but he's not losing sleep over it. Sure, it might have been nice to receive his due recognition, but at the end of the day, the only validation Tom truly seeks will come from what he does inside the octagon.
There has to be some sort of like appreciation of the pomp and circumstance that it's like.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. It isn't great, in all honesty, but for me, in like 3 months when I fight or whenever I fight, that's all going to be forgotten about anyway.
Sure.
Like the accolade is still there that I'm the heavyweight champion. I can still fight somebody. So that was my focus. Yeah, it would have been definitely nice to get my flowers a little bit more, but I can do that in the octagon anyway. I'm not too bothered. I can see where like yourself and other people are coming from. Like, that's a bit of a shitty way to do it.
Your father as well.
Yeah, my dad was the same.
He called it pathetic.
Yeah, and I can see where you guys are coming from. But for me personally, I'm just like so focused on what I got to do, which is fight somebody.
Still, context matters. As Ariel points out, Tom now holds a unique distinction. He is the one heavyweight John Jones never faced. Tom doesn't wear this as a badge of honor, but he's aware of the narrative. His mere presence may have been enough to give John pause. If Tom were a 42-year-old on the decline, perhaps John would have stayed. But the current version of Tom, young, skilled, and dangerous, was too much of a risk. John stepped away, and Tom was left with the crown.
Frustrating. You can now sit here and say, I believe you retired John Jones. You could sit here and say, I retired John Jones. And you did say last summer,
yeah, I did.
He will never fight me, and he will choose to retire instead of fighting me. So that is a feather in your cap.
Again, I see what you mean, but that's like ego talking.
Your presence made one of the greatest fighters of all time say, I'm not fighting anymore.
It is.
If you were a 42-year-old former champion who was sitting there, he probably is fighting.
Yeah, I think so.
In fact, he was campaigning to fight Francis Ngannou not that long ago.
Or Alex.
Yeah. So that's a feather.
It's a compliment.
Yes.
It's a
compliment. Are you taking it as such?
I guess so, yeah. But again, that's like my ego talking. So I'm like,
Yet Tom refuses to dwell on hypotheticals. He's tired of the John Jones conversation. He entertained it before because he wanted the fight, but now that it's off the table, so is the topic. When did he realize it was truly over? A few weeks ago, he says, not from any official word, but from the MMA grapevine. Friends training in Thailand near John's camp noticed John wasn't preparing for a fight. He was just existing, not training with purpose.
Everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of, let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight, and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand at similar times that he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behaviour that he's doing outside the octagon, that he's not going to fight anytime soon.
Back in March, Tom had a meeting with UFC executives in London. At that time, he genuinely believed the John Jones fight was coming together. They told him to stay ready, and that's exactly what he did. No holidays, no breaks, just non-stop training and recovery for 10 months. Even if the ending wasn't what he imagined, Tom can say with certainty that he held up his end. He was always prepared.
Yeah, and the UFC always... I honestly think I've got to be one of the easiest people for the UFC to ever work with, because, and that's not me like blowing my own trumpet. Everything they tell me I do. I never do anything like, they just told me for a year, be ready, stay fit, stay in shape, be ready for a date, be ready for a contract. And that's what I've done for the last year. I've not done nothing else. I've took like no vacations. I'm not taking no days off. I'm looking after my diet. I'm doing my recovery. I'm doing the sparring. I'm doing the strength and conditioning. I'm learning new techniques. I'm doing everything that a professional fighter at the elite level should be doing to get ready for a fight. So that's all I've done for like the last 10 months or whatever it's been. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation, to be honest, but I'm so glad now that it's just done and I can move on.
Despite everything, John Jones is still active on social media, still dropping hints and comments about what could have been. Tom, though, is done with the speculation. Whatever politics or negotiations happened behind closed doors, none of it was under his control. He isn't blaming John or the UFC. He did what was asked of him. He stayed ready, he waited, and now it's his turn. That's all that matters to him.
I think you've got to be able to see John's point of view. I don't know, it's difficult to say because I don't know anybody else's business and I don't claim to know anybody else's business. It's just like, I know what they told me. What the UFC are doing and what John's doing is literally nothing to do with me. They told me to be ready. I was ready. They told me I've got this much time. I was preparing myself for that, and that's literally all I can do. The money and all that stuff, and that's got nothing to do with me.
I understand
so I
that.
don't really.
And I know you hate talking about this stuff. And
yeah,
you
I don't know who's to blame, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's done.
By the interview's end, Tom doesn't attack John Jones. But when Ariel brings up John's history with PEDs, Tom's stance is unambiguous. He sees performance-enhancing drugs as a far more serious offense in MMA than in other sports. In a sport where the goal is to inflict damage, using PEDs isn't just cheating, it's dangerous and, in Tom's view, cowardly. He believes anyone caught using them should never be allowed back in the cage. Tom's strong opinion on PEDs ties directly into his thoughts on the GOAT debate. Ariel floats the idea that anyone with a failed drug test shouldn't even be considered for greatest of all time status. And Tom agrees without hesitation. He names Georges St-Pierre as his GOAT, not just for his achievements, but for his professionalism. GSP was a 2-division champion, retired on his own terms, and never failed a drug test. Tom believes that true greatness is about discipline and integrity outside the cage, just as much as dominance inside it.
GSP is my greatest of all time. It goes without saying. Like, he has done everything. Like you say, two division champion. Also relinquished both of his losses. 0 PED stuff. And I think I'm not getting at John here. I'm getting at anyone who's failed a PED test. So this is my view on PEDs personally. If you're a sprinter, for example, you do 100 meters and you take PEDs and you win a race, you become faster than people who are not taking PEDs from that. That's okay. You're a cheat, you've won, they'll take your title off you or whatever.
Tom draws a hard line regarding PEDs. In track and field, if someone cheats, you strip the medal and move on. But in MMA, where the stakes are physical health and careers, it's a different story. Using banned substances isn't just cheating your opponent, it's endangering them. Tom believes PED use in combat sports is unforgivable and should result in a lifetime ban, not just a temporary suspension. There's no place in the sport for anyone willing to risk another athlete's future for an unfair advantage.
That's fine. If your job is to hurt another person, physically hurt another person, which could potentially redirect the rest of their life post-fighting, you're an absolute piece of shit and you should never be able to fight again.
The conversation shifts, but it's clear the emotional impact of the past year still lingers for Tom. He's been caught in a holding pattern for months, interim belt on his shoulder, but the real title just out of reach. All the while, he was told to keep quiet, stay patient, and remain professional. He did exactly that. Now, finally, he can move forward, but the experience has left its mark. You can hear it in his measured words. Bitter, but changed by everything he's endured.
It's difficult because for me it's really, really simple. And like you said, people, they always want to ask me about John Jones and stuff. And this very interview right now will be the last time I speak about it. I'm never going to speak to it
You're
about
done.
it again. I'm done with it. Anybody who asks me moving forward will get completely shut down about it. I'm not going to speak about it again.
Okay.
But like from here, like I just want to be done with it. I just want to move on. But I did want to fight him for it. I think that would have been the right thing to do.
How do you think it would have gone? Could I ask?
Me and John?
Yeah.
I'm the ultimate MMA nerd. I love MMA. I absolutely love MMA. I live and breathe for MMA. I've trained since I was 10 years old, 32 years old. Everything that I do in my life is centered around me being the best version of myself that I can be. Other things aside, the title, who John is, all the hype around it, all the money and all that kind of stuff, I legit wanted to find out how my style would get on with it.
And that's what makes this story feel unresolved, even though it technically is. Tom Aspinall didn't get the fight he wanted, nor the announcement he deserved. But what he did get was confirmation that he was too much of a threat. He was good enough, real enough, and dangerous enough to make the so-called GOAT walk away. Tom didn't retire John Jones with his fists. He retired him simply by being there.
That's I don't know, like I've been talking about John Jones.
I know.
I was happy
exhausted.
to talk about John Jones to get the fight. And now the fight's not there. I'm just like, let's just move on.
I get it. Now, when did you start to believe it wasn't happening?
Few weeks ago, maybe. Everybody seemed to think that John was like playing this game of let's make Tom not think I'm giving him the fight, and then I'm just going to spring it on him. But the MMA community at the highest level is a pretty small world, and I know people who've been out in Thailand at similar times to that he was there. I know people who are around his circle, and I know that from the behavior that he's doing outside the octagon.
Let us know in the comments how you feel about the way this all played out.